I've been waiting my whole life for this one. Orthopedic surgeon and husband for The View host Sonny Hostin has been named in a federal lawsuit alleging insurance fraud.
I agree with mostly everything that's been said. I mean, we know that, only about 31% of Americans trust our healthcare system. We have a terrible healthcare system. And, doctors suffer because of big corporations as well. Doctors that want to do good, like my husband, operates on someone even though they don't have insurance.
People have to wonder, where does Sonny Hostin get her opinions? Yeah. Like you said, and it's obviously from her husband. She has to tell her what to say on The View, because without it, she's got nothing up there.
Sonny Hostin just found out the hard way that karma doesn't wait for an invitation. It shows up when you least expect it, with Gutfeld cracking jokes and Tyrus ready to pile on. Imagine a staggering $450 million financial collapse, followed by a verbal takedown so brutal it felt like the signal cut out. Neither of them held back, turning her setback into non-stop mockery. What followed wasn't just political commentary, it became a full-blown roast that left no part of her image untouched.
She is not implicated in the lawsuit at all, but it's just, Pat, you're married. Tom, you're married. If your husband's doing something, if he's allegedly doing something like this, you guys would know if your wives were up to some nefarious stuff. Let's just not forget who she is. She's been, for years, lecturing America about morality, inequality, systemic failures, and look at her track record. How many times has she had to go on in the past 2 months and look at the camera and do a legal apology for all the stuff that she said on the show?
In the criminal case now, the prosecutors are like, oh, really? Well, how about we add some additional fraud charges onto you? And they're talking about threatening him with insurance fraud, which I would say you could get about 20 years in prison, so that's a death sentence.
Picture this, you're stretched out in a $5,000 designer lounge chair, the kind that screams, "Comfort is overrated." In your hand is a glass of fancy oat milk, sipping it with your pinky proudly in the air. Then suddenly, ding, your inbox starts filling up with legal notices like their holiday sale alert. Do you panic? Not a chance. You throw on your moral high ground, turn on the camera, and start lecturing everyone as if you're teaching a room full of people guilty of using plastic straws.
Their brains are small. But who's the dumbest one of all? True, none of them are in Mensa, but who's the most densa? Perhaps it's Sonny who mastered the art of making idiots look smart. Now, The View could ask a mirror who's the dumbest one of all, but there's no way that glass doesn't shatter.
Welcome to Sonny's own personal PR nightmare, the kind of week that feels like it was delivered straight from the karma department. Yes, we're talking about Sonny, The View's queen of self-righteous speeches and non-stop lectures. She's the kind of person who could make a lamppost question its entire existence. She could give a 10-minute lesson on institutional oppression to a ficus and somehow leave the poor plant emotionally drained, all while completely overlooking the financial bombshell going off inside her own home.
The problem is that you have to go after the racist people. And if the CEO goes, you know what, I'm not going to allow a woman on my show, or man, that will go after white America and talk about them like dogs. That doesn't represent our ideals or values for anyone. And get rid of those people, and this will clear up real quick. So do you have to actually look in the mirror and clean up your own backyard and get the racist people out? Because that's who you allowed in. You allowed black racist on TV who could just go all day and say anything about white people. And I guess lo and behold, they forgot that there's a lot of people at home, white people at home during the day, that are not watching your show anymore. So just clean it up.
Yeah, Emily.
Because, in a twist of irony, while Sonny was out front trying to tell everyone else how to live, armed with endless confidence and a steady supply of righteous outrage, her husband was behind the scenes delivering a masterclass on how not to manage money. We're talking about the kind of financial disaster that turns a staggering $450 million into a warning story people won't forget.
So that makes Sonny Hostin, who thinks climate change caused the solar eclipse, the dumbest of them all. Because everyone knows the moon caused the eclipse, which is controlled by The View's gravitational pull. All right, Kat, did you ever see such a group? It's amazing how Joy and Whoopi became the smart ones.
Then came the $450 million court case, crashing into Sonny's world like a runaway latte in a Starbucks parking lot. Most people would keep a low profile after a financial disaster like that. Not Sonny. She walked right back onto The View with the same air of moral certainty, as if nothing had happened. But this time, Greg Gutfeld and Tyrus were waiting. Gutfeld, always quick with a sarcastic punchline, saw the whole situation as comedy gold. He's long treated The View as reality TV dressed up as serious debate. So when the headlines about Sonny's husband's financial troubles broke, Greg didn't waste a second. He joked that watching Sonny lecture America on ethics while her own household faced financial chaos was like taking relationship advice from a Jersey Shore reunion. Brutal? Maybe. Memorable? Absolutely.
It's not even that. In The View, you don't need to find Trumpers. You need to fire your race baiters.
Yeah.
You need to fire the two races. You've had people. You had a McCain on there. You've had people on there before, and you ran them off. So the racist ones who want to stick to this, Whoopi and Sonny, and the, was it Bette Midler? What's her name? Yeah, broke Bette Midler. Fire them and bring people in. Maybe you could get McCain to come back. She was a Republican, but every show and every break, she was nearly in tears because she was being attacked.
Greg's takedown wasn't just commentary, it was a full-blown performance. He painted Sonny as the face of irony, acting unfazed on live TV while financial trouble unfolded behind the scene. His point was simple: if Hypocrisy had a theme song, Sonny would be dancing to it. The audience loved it. Reddit filled with memes, social media lit up, and critics quickly labeled her the latest example of tone-deaf moralizing. Just when the jokes started to fade, Tyrus stepped in, calm, measured, and sharp. He didn't need to raise his voice to make his point. He asked the question no one on The View seemed willing to ask. How can someone so focused on judging everyone else miss the financial storm happening in her own household? Then, with his usual calm delivery, he took apart the idea of preaching from a pedestal that was already starting to crumble.
Hostin's obsession with race gets thrown back in her face. Today's video comes to us from sunny Hostin. Sounds like a town. We're in sunny Hostin. She was on PBS's Finding Your Roots, a show dedicated to researching celebrity ancestry. For context, Sonny is a staunch supporter of reparations and has made a fortune spewing nonsense about white privilege and racial justice. Well, turns out she's not as oppressed as she claims she is. She's actually the descendant of slave owners from Europe. And it is funny, she's so wrapped up in identity and she had no idea who she was.
Tyrus's comments didn't just land, they hit hard. He portrayed Sonny as the perfect example of elite disconnect, quick to lecture everyday Americans while a major financial mess was unfolding in her own household. In his view, this wasn't just about money, it was about credibility. Sonny had built her image on always having the right answers, only to have that image shaken by something as basic as financial trouble. It's like watching Gordon Ramsay burn microwave popcorn. If Greg Gutfeld handled the roasting, Tyrus brought the wrecking ball. While Greg relied on sharp jokes, Tyrus challenged the bigger picture. He argued that The View had become a place where outrage gets rewarded, but accountability rarely shows up. The contrast was impossible to miss. On one side was Sonny lecturing America, on the other were headlines about a $450 million financial crisis tied to her own household. For many critics, it was a serious blow to her credibility and the show's image.
Sausage maker Johnsonville is recalling more than 42,000 pounds of pork sausage for possible contamination with plastic fibers. Fortunately, authorities were able to track all 42,000 pounds to a single location in New York City.
So how did The View respond to Sonny's financial controversy? They closed ranks. No real reflection, no acknowledgement, just more lectures wrapped in confidence. One panelist even suggested the backlash was driven by as if criticizing someone after a $450 million financial controversy automatically meant attacking women. Meanwhile, Greg Gutfeld and Tyrus kept the pressure on. Greg joked about the irony of Sonny criticizing billionaires while her own household was making financial headlines. He even quipped that The View's next season might be sponsored by GoFundMe and foreclosure notices. Tyrus added his own jab, saying that if you're busy judging everyone else's house, maybe make sure your own is in order first. The internet ran with it. Clips spread everywhere, memes took off, and many viewers called it one of the biggest roasts in recent memory. Back on set, the laughter felt forced, the outrage sounded rehearsed, and for many critics, the show's image suddenly didn't seem as untouchable as it once did.
Sonny gets the game ball. If it wasn't for her, asking that question, it might have been a closer election. But when oh no, nothing really comes to mind, I was like, cha-ching. Listen, they're bitter, they're angry, they're entitled. They also should be, this should have been a reset for everyone who pushed lies and misinformation for the last, they call them Hitler, they call these things, America rejected them. And instead of coming back and saying, we lied, they instead are now doubling down. So let her keep doing it, because if she keeps that up, we're going to keep getting the Senate and probably the House and the White House, because people see right through your lies. So keep doing what you're doing. Game ball to Sonny.
In the end, this wasn't just about Sonny. It became a debate over the image of moral superiority, an image critics say is built on TV lights, polished talking points, and a sense of elite certainty. The irony, they argued, was that it took Greg Gutfeld, a late-night satirist, and Tyrus, a former pro wrestler, to call it out. Sonny didn't respond by backing down. She kept making her points and carrying on as usual. But for many viewers, something had changed. The confidence didn't seem quite as convincing, and every new segment came with the shadow of the $450 million controversy hanging over it. Greg moved on to his next target with another joke ready to go, while Tyrus calmly waited for the next headline to dissect. Sonny remained on The View, still offering her opinions, but now many critics saw her through a different lens. That's what made the whole episode so memorable. Gutfeld and Tyrus didn't rely on gentle criticism. They turned it into a sharp, unforgettable roast.
She had to tell the audience that she tips big because even she knows she sounds insufferable. Hey, I'm an but at least I tip. This dame probably virtue signals on the toilet. But that's not the point here. While everybody else was trying to figure out how to survive as the government told us that breathing in public could kill us, Sonny was lolling around in her big house clicking on pictures of arugula while mixing Cocoa Puffs into her Haagen-Dazs. Oh, the oppression. I wonder if she wiped down the groceries herself or had her maid do it. She tips her too.
Greg Gutfeld and Tyrus didn't just criticize Sonny. They used the moment to take aim at what they see as the larger culture of elite media. For them, it wasn't only about Sonny's husband's reported $450 million financial controversy. It was about commentators who lecture everyday Americans while facing serious problems of their own. Greg saw the story as a perfect example of hypocrisy, turning it into sharp satire. Tyrus took a calmer approach, using humor to question how people can preach accountability while struggling with their own issues. In their view, this wasn't just about one person. It was about a style of television where public lectures come easy, but self-reflection is much harder. And as many critics pointed out, Sonny wasn't the first public figure to face that kind of backlash. She was simply the latest.
Calls her a 10. I mean, how dare she objectify a woman with a sexist rating system, but it's such a typical thing from a 1.5.
Well said.
The bigger takeaway, according to critics, is that hypocrisy comes with a price. In this case, they argue it wasn't just financial, it also damaged credibility. While Sonny and her fellow The View co-hosts continue weighing in on major issues, some viewers have become more skeptical. Not because they don't care about the topics, but because they expect the same level of accountability from the people delivering the message. Greg Gutfeld and Tyrus used the controversy to make that point in very different ways. Greg with sharp satire and Tyrus with calm, pointed observation. Their argument was that audiences are looking for authenticity, not more scripted outrage. That's one reason supporters say Gutfeld continues to connect with viewers. Critics also argue that The View has changed over the years. What was once promoted as a place for lively debate now feels, to them, more like a constant cycle of arguments, where strong opinions often take center stage over thoughtful discussion.
People have to wonder, where does Sunny Hostin get her opinions? Like you said, and it's obviously from her husband. She has to tell her what to say on The View, because without it, she's got nothing up there. She's not very bright. But the problem with her is that she went full racist. She injected skin color into a fairly generic behavior seen in all spouses, regardless of skin color. People marry, they listen to each other, they have something in common with them, they share their political views. She just didn't want to upset her husband by saying her husband makes her do everything, and then she'd have to accuse him of being a racist. because if he told her that this is what white women do, then he's a racist. You see?
When Greg Gutfeld and Tyrus weighed in, they weren't just criticizing Sonny, they were taking aim at what they see as a larger media culture. Their message was simple: if you're going to lecture millions of people, you better be ready for the same level of scrutiny yourself. To them, the controversy became a symbol of credibility under pressure. Greg leaned into sharp satire, while Tyrus delivered calm but pointed criticism. Together, they turned the story into one of the most talked about media moments, and the internet quickly amplified it with clips, jokes, and memes. That leaves a bigger question for The View. Can the show move past the controversy, or has it changed how some viewers see it? For critics, the lesson is straightforward. It's hard to claim the moral high ground when your own house is making headlines. And in today's media world, the audience isn't just listening, they're watching for the next moment that puts those words to the test.